There was some speculation of whether or not Josh Okogie would be back. He turned down his player option for 2024, entered free agency. Suns had rumored interest in Kyle Lowry. That didn't materialize. So yesterday, it was announced the Suns bringing back Okogie, 2 years, $16 million. And I know, Kellan, when people saw those numbers that don't understand, and I'm not claiming I completely understand the CBA and everything that goes along with it, with the luxury tax, but those are numbers for Josh Okogie that you're like, wow, really? Fall off the chair kind of numbers. But there is a reason for this madness.
There absolutely is. So we have covered a lot extensively on our programming, on our website, through all of our content channels, the situation that the Suns are in. They're a second apron team. The short version of this is that their maneuverability in offseason, trade deadline, acquisition, that kind of stuff is severely limited. Mm-hmm. Something that they can still do is trade players, but they cannot combine Jusuf Nurkic and Grayson Allen together to do a trade. What they can do is a 1-for-1 trade, a 1-for-2 trade, 1-for-3 trade. Like you can trade a guy, you can do 2-for-2.
As long as the salaries match up.
That kind of thing. You can do 2-for-2 in a 3-team trade, 4-team trade, whatever. So in order to make this work, you need the right size salaries to make this happen. So someone like Josh Okogie, you can look at that and say, that's an overpay. What are the Suns doing? The only context of how this matters in terms of it being an overpay is Matt Ishbia's wallet. And these tax payments happen at the end of the year, but you would assume that this Josh Okogie deal is either going to stick through to the end of the year or they are going to trade it later in the year. Mm-hmm. It's not just that they're going to dump this to a team with salary cap space with a pick attached to it or whatever. They're going to eat this money. And the amount of money that Matt Ishbia paid was $47 million is what this added to the tax bill alone. Bobby Marks had the tweet. The Suns are the first $400 million team in payroll in league history. They have $223 million in salaries. Projected tax, $198 million. Hang the banner, Vince Marotta. They've done it.
Almost $200 million in tax payment.
And I'm sure when the league started formatting these rules, and I'm sure you guys have discussed on your show in the last 2 weeks how teams like the Clippers and the Nuggets have cited, like the second apron, we're scared of it. We don't want anything to do with that and all these limitations. We knew there was going to be another team that was going to break it. I'm not sure that Phoenix was the team that someone envisioned, whereas a team where if you had to guess right now, would they make the conference finals? Probably not. But they're the team that is going to jump this. And because they had Josh Okogie's bird rights as their own free agent, they were able to pay him more than the minimum.
Yes.
We just didn't think that was going to happen because Josh Okogie came on the minimum last year and had a worse season last year than he did the year prior. But he comes in and is another tradable contract. So now you've got Grayson Allen and Jusuf Nurkic and Royce O'Neal, or really Allen and Nurkic in like that $15 to $18 million range. You've got Royce O'Neal in that $10 million range, Okogie in the 8, Nas Little in the 7. So now if you're at the deadline and you're looking to move some stuff around, I think ideally you want to take this 2031 pick or some of these second round picks and attach them to a player. I read this signing, Vince, as they've been trying to trade Nas Little or have not heard much interest in Nas Little. He has 2 more years on his deal after this year, similar salary structure to Okogie in terms of the amount. So then you bring over Josh and you can just say, hey, you just eat his money the rest of the year. There's a team option on the second year, decline it. Here's a pick or 2. And it's just basically a salary filler that you can include in a trade and pick up a real player in January, which, Vince, if this sounds bizarre to those listening, it's really bizarre because I think Josh Okogie is signing this deal knowing there's a really good chance he's going to get traded in January or February.
But also questions on how much he's going to play before that.
He does not have a guaranteed role on this team at all.
So you're saying that they could trade Josh Okogie, but the Suns would still pay his salary, so it would be more desirable, like they do in baseball, for example?
No, what I'm saying is they would trade him, but then the salary they would get back is still like what they're going to pay. So like this extra $47 million in luxury taxes because of that extra $8 million in salary. The minutia here is crazy. There's a rising element that happens where for every dollar that you pay an extra $1, but then the repeater tax happens. They're now up to where every dollar is $6.75. That's how high, and it's gonna keep going.
But
like the euro.
To put that into other terms, Jarrett, when they go to trade Josh Okogie, now they can trade for an $8 million player as opposed to a $2.4 million.
And even
player.
though it's a 2-year deal,
team option on the second year,
it's essentially an expiring contract. So that's why somebody would want to acquire a guy that you're overpaying for.
And look, if Josh is shooting 36 from 3 and he's a rotation player, you just accept that team option again, and you're in a really good spot. But to your point, Vince, they've got 7 guys. They've got Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Grayson Allen, Kevin Durant, Yusuf Nurkic, Monte Morris, and Royce O'Neal. And then after that, I would assume Mason Plumlee's the backup center. But you've got 7 guys, and then it's Bol, Lee, Dunn, Iguodaro, Little, Okogie, Roddy. We don't know. We don't know who's going to emerge from that group, but they paid all this money for a very specific reason, and it's fascinating.
Why didn't they just pay $20 million to him then?
Because you want a specific amount that curtails to roster. I'm wording this very poorly, but the amount is designed purposefully. So if you pay him $20 million a year, you're looking at players that are worth $18 million a year. Can you afford them with this pick or this pick package? But if you're looking at the guys in the $8-7 million range that you'd be trading for, those are guys value-wise. Are you with me still, Jared, at 6 o'clock in the morning talking about this?
I get it. It's all. It just sucks because they have so much money in 3 players that they have to do all this gymnastics.
But to Kellan's original point was, people will say, is this sustainable? That's all up to Matt Ishbia. If he wants to keep
How's
writing
the mortgage
checks,
business going, you know?
Yes, I mean,
Like,
it could be sustainable.
That's what I don't remember the Mikhail Prokhorov era of the Nets, where he did this to some extent. Now, nowhere near this stuff, but he went kind of crazy with spending money, and then he got out. I do not anticipate that to be Matt Ishbia, but you just kind of wonder. I wrote a story 2 years ago. Cam Johnson doesn't sign that contract extension. Suns are in the middle of the ownership change. You're kind of like, okay, are they going to get the type of owner that would be okay with signing Cam Johnson? We were like in this luxury tax era. All of a sudden, these rules come in, and the analogy I was making, like, we're in the Wild West of the luxury tax era with spending money, and are they going to get a gunslinger? They got the gunslinger. Like, no one is spending money like him right now.
No, it's crazy. And the Kyle Lowry interest that was rumored, the Suns apparently were kicking the tires on Kyle Lowry. He's going back to Philadelphia, his hometown, where he played his college ball, where he ended last year with the Sixers. He gets a minimum deal. Did that interest make all that much sense to you after the Monte Morris signing?
It didn't from the player's perspective. Like, why would Kyle Lowry come here or Monte Morris come here if they're like competing for a spot there? Basically, the interest in Kyle Lowry made sense just from the intangibles. We talked about all the problems that seemed to be coming out of the locker room last year. You talk about the starting point guard on a really, really good team that won a championship. Yes, Kyle Lowry's not the player that he once was. Is he a rotation player in the league? I don't know. But the intangibles that he would have brought made a lot of sense. The big thing on this move, Vince, we should mention before we go to break, is those 7 guys I mentioned. After that, Damian Lee is really the only guy who is a average shooter in this league or below. You've got Bol, who shot it well last year, but teams are going to leave him open, and he's going to have to prove it. Plumlee, you got Dunn, Iguodaro, Little, Roddy, and now Josh Okogie. There were a lot of fans who wanted to see the team use this roster spot on someone who could shoot, because you are looking at a lack of shooting at a certain point. But I think the hope is, 1, I think Damian Lee is going to play, and then 2, someone like Dunn, someone like Nas Little, someone like Josh Okogie can provide enough value in the meantime. And at the same time, we're talking about the 9th or 10th spot in the rotation, very small role. But
it matters.
A lack of shooting is here if you're talking about Grayson Allen gets hurt and then one of the other guards gets hurt, and now there's a severe lack of spacing on the floor.
Yeah, fascinating move by the Suns yesterday.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.